This is the first video of a series of videos I would like to call op-ed. This is a series of videos where basically I'm going to have a bit of an editorial look at some of the more social issues surrounding League. They're not going to be particularly concerned with analysis and statistics and team breakdowns and all of this stuff. It's just going to be a very sort of, I know I've said it before, but a little quick chat on some of the issues and some of the concerns that I see in the League community, especially some of the issues that have got the League community hot under the collar. This week we have three particular topics that I sort of want to get to. I'm going to play in the background, I'm going to play the Samsung White Starhorn Royal Club Season 4 World's Final game. I really sort of like Samsung White and what they did, so that's just for a little bit of entertainment while you hear me harp on and drone on about the issues that we're going to talk about today. What we're going to be talking about firstly is LoLeSports and their coverage of the International Wildcard Invitational Tournament for the Mid-Season Invitational, and their weird lack of support for these other regions. I want to talk a little bit about not the individual, but a little bit about the Gross Gore situation. That seems to have lots of people feeling quite strongly. And then finally, trolling and Thorin and a tweet that we saw earlier this week. Firstly, starting with LoLeSports, there's a couple of things to consider when they put their tweets out. As I'm sure we can all imagine, living in this digital age, a tweet is a advertisement for yourself. Now, whether you mean it or whether you don't mean it, or whether you put the disclaimer in your Twitter that, you know, these any tweets are my own views and not of my company or this and that. Well, we all know that doesn't really count for very much. If you tweet something and you work for a company or you're doing something in particular, it's human nature to judge that, and you can't put that disclaimer in there to change it. Now, I'm not saying that LoLeSports don't want to support these other smaller, less competitive regions, but there's a reason why they probably aren't harping on about these other regions to start with. And whether those reasons are good or not, I still want to talk about what those reasons are and unpack them and talk about them, because I think it's important. Basically, I think the reason they're not doing it is because NA and the NALCS and EU and the EULCS are the breadwinners for Riot. Now, they're not. This is where they get most of their business from. And the idea that for LoLeSports to be successful, they need these regions to be particularly successful too. Now, let's just think for a second about how actually successful these regions are at the moment. And what I'd like to do is have a look at some of the storylines that surround these regions, because for the first time in a long time, if not forever, but for a long time anyway, there are some huge storylines around here that really have got everyone worked up into a frenzy, a good frenzy, but a frenzy nonetheless. So let's have a look at them and break them down for a second. In the NALCS, TSM and CLG were the biggest, hugest, most craziest stories that anyone had seen in a long time, okay? Doublelift leaving CLG, Doublelift doing that trash video, CLG losing their franchise player in Doublelift. This is big news. Everyone has opinions about Doublelift. Everyone has lots to say about him as a player, him as a professional. this is a really, really big move. He's only been at CLG in the past, and now he's gone to TSM, their biggest rivals, the other big team in the NALCS. I'm not talking about result here just yet. I'm just talking about size of fan bases. Huge, going from a decent fan base team to the biggest. I seriously don't think there's a bigger team in LoL. Fnatic maybe, but even then, Fnatic are not as popular as what TSM are. On the TSM concept, Dyrus was retiring as well. He had quite an emotional finish to the season last year. Lots of people feeling very strongly about that. So it was interesting not only to see him retire, but then who was going to replace Dyrus as well. There's this kid called Hornsa, and Hornsa seems to... everyone seems to have an opinion about Hornsa as well. He was on Coast, Team 8. I think it was Team 8 last season, and seemed to do particularly well. And everyone thought, wow, he's going to be a great fit for TSM. We need to see how this plays out. Okay. Through all of this, Hotshot GG from CLG has put out a couple of videos voicing his opinion about what's been going on with CLG, what they're doing to try to combat the loss of their franchise player. That got a lot of people thinking, about the NALCS a lot more this off-season than they have probably in the past. The Rush Hour bot lane has broken up as well. I guess that's a big a big draw card to get people thinking about. I guess that these guys stream a lot. These guys were together a lot. Now all of a sudden it just seems all of that's thrown out the window. There's big drama around it. That's really, really important to get people thinking about it. The support on TSM was still up in the air. Kasing had come over, did a couple of tryouts, was wearing a Team Solo Mid shirt in a video saying he was trying out, didn't know how he was going to feel about it. People are thinking, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? What's he doing? What's his plan? When he ended up not staying, rumors are plenty through everything here, not including Yellow Star leaving Fnatic in the EULCS to come and play for Team Solo Mid and double lift in the bottom lane. This is crazy. People are... Is this really happening? Kasing, top level support. Yellow Star, top level support on a top level team. Which is really, really important. Sorry about that. Which is really important. Where does this all come from? The NALCS was already a hotbed of thought and drama and activity. Okay. Then we get to the EULCS. Okay. Now these are the two big breadwinning, regions for Riot and LoLeSports. When they sell tickets, when they sell skins, when they sell lots of things, this is where they get all of their money from. So I think it's really important that, I think from a strategic point of view, that LoLeSports make sure that these two regions are quite successful. In the EULCS, okay, we have Huni and Rainover at Fnatic took them to a world semi-final where they lost out to Rox Coup at the time. Okay, this awesome top lane has suddenly gone from an undefeated season in the EULCS as a little team. They've picked up and left Fnatic and gone to the NALCS. And they've gone to Immortals, a brand new team. How are they going to perform? Are they going to do the same thing? What are they going to be doing? This is really, really important. People are thinking about this stuff. What are they doing? They've just gone undefeated in a season. They've got to semis of world. Don't they want to stay and try to improve and continue doing what they were doing in the top lane at Fnatic? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Okay. What else do we have here? Fnatic, where are they going to now? They've lost their top lane jungle. They've lost their support. Fnatic only have Febiven and Reckless left. who's going to be their support, who's going to be their top, who's going to be their jungle. Now, they end up picking up a Gamsu from who used to play in the NALCS, and they also pick up Spirit, who's going to go in their jungle. This is another Korean top lane jungle duo. Is this going to be good? Is this going to be important? Are they going to be a new Reignover and Huni? Are they going to perform the same way? Are they not? Cly ended up being the support on Fnatic. Who is this guy? Is he going to be any good? How is he going to work in with Reckless? Reckless is this particular ADC who has a very particular way of doing things, and he's very opinionated, or has this to say, or has that to say. What does this mean for Fnatic in the future? We've got G2 coming in from Challenger. Who are G2? How are they going to perform? What are they going to do? H2K have Rio and Forgiven now working together in a team after a proper off-season together, having time to work out all of their problems. How is this going to work? How are they going to perform in the EULCS? So my point here is there was a lot of stuff going on in both of these regions, and the finale actually came out really good. NALCS had CLG TSM as a final, and it turned into 5 games, and it was actually a lot of fun to watch. It was very back and forth. CLG ended up winning that one out, which is fine, but people had such a strong build up to the season and really good continuing storylines throughout the season that everyone's hyped up to the max level. Everyone's like, wow, this has been such a great season. Now, I'm not saying it's been a great season. I'm not going to comment on the strategical play of this region of EULCS and NALCS in this video. It's not what this video is for. Advertiser's website, I hate it. That's not what this is for. This is to talk about the issues around a tweet or lack thereof. Now, these regions have had a huge hyped build-up. They've had a huge, long, great season, and now they've got to a point where they've just had finals. Origen have gone to the EULCS final against G2, which was very interesting. They didn't have to fight their way through, but they had to come a long way to get to that final, with Power of Evil and Xpeki swapping out the mid lane, coming in, coming out, who's doing what, who's doing this. G2, who are they? They've just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're throwing their weight around, and in the final of the EULCS, by the end of it all, everyone has this really, really big hype level. And I'm thinking that LoLeSports don't want to ruin that hype. They don't want to be like, no, we're done. Now let's start, making sure that we're supporting other regions as well. Think of it this way. LoLeSports have just had a great season with their two big regions. I don't think that they want to, as ruthless as this sounds, to give that sheen away to other regions. They really need to continue this hype train for their two big bread-winning regions. International Wildcard Tournament. Yeah, I mean, it's good for anyone who's really interested in League, but when it comes down to a business perspective, the core audiences of the EU and the NALCS are not going to care too much about the International Wildcard Tournament. MSI, yeah, sure, absolutely, because it's one of two LoLeSports and Riot sanctioned events regarding all of the teams in the major regions and some of the minor regions too. You want to get to the international, get to MSI, sure. We don't care how you got there though, and I think that's the attitude that the audiences of the EU and NALCS have, which is unfortunate, but I guess dollars wise, that's the way it works. Maybe dollar wise, that's the way it works. Now, I'm not saying that that's the right or wrong thing to do. I actually don't think that it's important to have it all in the one region, but they have a strategy to do, and I guess my point is you can't hate on them too much for wanting the EU and the NALCS to after such a great season to continue to build hype around it. I think it's kind of important. But that's just my opinion. And this is what this video is about. The second topic that I want to get onto is regarding Gross Gore. Now, Gross Gore this week was banned from streaming on Twitch. I believe his Riot accounts, his League of Legends accounts are fine, but he was banned from streaming on Twitch due to a couple of indiscretions that he had on stream and at the that he mentioned and talked about on stream regarding his time and Rotterdam for the EULCS finals. And I believe he may or may not have said some things that maybe Twitch wasn't too happy about. He ended up getting banned. I don't know the circumstances around how it was done. Maybe I believe he just logged in, saw that he couldn't get on, put out a couple of tweets, spoke to someone in a Skype call. I'm not too sure. But basically, this is what, from what I take out of all of this, despite the intricacies of what happened at Rotterdam, which I don't really care about, to be quite honest. I guess it's just a good reminder that we need to remember that most of the stuff we do on the internet is just this computer and just that camera in front of us. It's a very fragile way of doing life in general, I guess. There is a big brother who has a key, and that key is what we rely on to be able to do what we do. Obviously, I'm not putting myself in that same bracket because, you know, I'm not a big name, but it's very, very fragile as to what we do on the internet, and it can be taken away in a second. You run out of internet, guess what? You can't do your job. You run out of power, guess what? You can't do your job. You upset someone in the wrong way, and they take away your account and take away all the things that are important to you that you require to do your job. Guess what? You can't do it. So I guess it's really important to make sure that you treat what you're doing here with utmost respect. Because while it's easy for you to be in the comfort of your own home, in your own room, talking to your own viewers or having your own chats about whatever, you need to remember that that is what your public image is. And you're using a tool on the internet that someone else has as their own public image. And you need to respect the fact that they might not like what you do. There's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sure, it sucks. It maybe was a bit heartless. It maybe wasn't done in the right way. Everyone feels very strongly about Gross Gore because I think he's been, you know, like there was a video going around of the most passionate LoL player ever because he did a Twisted Fade out play or something and he just got super hyped about it. I like Gross Gore. I haven't seen anything bad about him. I'm not saying that he's perfect, but I was listening to the stream. I was half asleep, like literally like in bed sleeping when I was listening to it. But I heard that part of the stream and I don't know what to make of it, but there are people at Twitch who weren't happy about it. Now, there are lots of arguments around this saying, oh, well, you know, people at Twitch, everything's corrupt. It's easy to be a girl. Just send Twitch employees a couple of nudes and guess what you can do and say what you like and this and that and whatever. But at the end of the day, like, that's a reality of life that maybe we're all dealing with. And as much as it sucks, that's the way that you need to get business done. So you need to respect that. And I don't feel there has been too much respect about that. Everyone's very, oh, but this is my right to do this, my right to that. Well, you're pretty lucky to be having your life, having a job, and doing all of this stuff on the internet. I think maybe we need to respect it a bit more and go back to maybe something that shows a little bit more respect to everyone. I mean, even there was some stuff on Sneaky Stream about Shox's little sister, this and that, and I know he was trolling and, you know, it, like, had all these people and about, you know, oh, she's 15 years old and this, and that was really, really horrible innuendo. I mean, it's a dark path that we go down sometimes, isn't it? So I think it's really important that we make sure that we just remember that our image on the internet is everything. It is everything. and I think we need to do everything we can to protect that image. As unjust as it might sound, that's the way it is. The third thing I want to talk about, it's not Thorin specifically, but he put out a tweet going something along the lines of, if someone says in-game kill yourself, that person doesn't actually mean kill yourself. There's there's innuendo, and there is basically being a bit of a troll on the internet doesn't actually mean you want someone to get cancer or get AIDS or kill themselves. And he thinks that it's an overreaction for Riot to ban someone for doing that same thing. I can see where he's coming from, and a lot of people might have the opinion that, well, it's not such a big deal. Like, whatever, it's trolling in a game. Someone's flaming, someone's salty as anything. Like, who cares? Whatever. Like, they'll get over it. It's just a game. It's not a big deal. But when Riot issues a ban, again, we have to think, if Riot doesn't issue that ban to someone who is now known to have said something really horrible like that, they're not sanctioning that. They're not condoning it, but it doesn't have a good, image for Riot. People are looking at going, wow, like this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. When I don't think that that's what they want. Um, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of evidence to say there are lots of double standards around when it comes to Riot acting on something you might consider bannable. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely do think that there are double standards here, but I guess what I want to say about it all is that Riot keeps the individual person behind the computer in mind at all times. Now, whether they always act in that person's best interests or not, I think it could be debated and has been debated in the past. I think that they want to keep that person in the computer in their mind, but they don't necessarily always act on it, because you can't act on every single last little case of, oh, he said to go kill myself. Oh, he said to go screw my mum. Not screw, but, oh, he said this, he said that, this and that, this and that. It's all well and good to say that this happened, but sometimes it can be dobbing and tattletaling. Sometimes there are two sides to a story. It's not just as simple as someone just flaming for no reason. So we need to keep that perspective in mind and understand that it's not always a ban, or a temporary ban is a really, really big step for someone to take. So maybe in the first instance, that's not the best thing to do. In saying that, it is a game, and we are all aware that people will troll and people will flame and people will get under your skin, and they probably enjoy it, and maybe they do. So mute chat, or do something about it. You have that ability, you have that capacity in front of you to be able to do something about it. Maybe not stop them from doing it, but you can protect yourself from it. And I think it's really important that we do that, and not necessarily develop a thicker hide, but don't run to Riot and League of Legends to say, oh, look, I have a problem, you need to fix this. Maybe try to do something about it yourself first before starting to ask for bans and ask for this and ask for that, because there are a lot of people who play this game. You are not going to like everyone. Not everyone's going to like you. In life, guess what? We don't like everyone. Not everyone likes us. So perhaps we just need to do more to protect ourselves as an individual rather than anything else. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. It was maybe a little bit more long-winded than I wanted to, but again, this is me early in video and topic producing careers, so bear with me for a little while, and it will improve. I promise you that. Speak to you again soon.